It's really sad that it took the talent of WWE to get stranded in Saudi Arabia for us to get one of our best shows in WWE in recent memory. In many, many, many months. That includes SmackDown, Raw, and of course it had NXT involvement. This is my review for Friday Night SmackDown for November 1st, 2019. I am Graham G. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoyed your Halloween on Thursday. So as it turned out, I recorded Wrestle Rant Radio on Thursday afternoon, right before Crown Jewel. No Crown Jewel review on that show. No Crown Jewel review on this show. The show sucked. Yeah, Wyatt won the Universal Championship. That's great. It was the only outcome that made sense. Let's face it. The actual match between The Fiend and Seth Rollins sucked. Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman sucked. Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez was way too short to be anything. It was just a disappointment. The entire show, maybe not a complete waste of time, but you would be wasting your time if you went out of your way to watch it. Mansoor and Cesaro was great. Team Hogan and Team Flair was fun for what it was. It was no different than any other 10-man tag team match we've ever gotten on Raw or SmackDown. But putting that aside, it was a pretty ordinary, mundane 10-man tag team match. Nothing out of the ordinary about it whatsoever. It was fun, but it was like the fucking WrestleMania main event compared to everything else on that show. So that's what I'll say about Crown Jewel on Thursday. SmackDown, however, was a great show last night. And not just because, NXT was there. Not just because NXT was on the show. And I will say this, WWE, this sounds weird to say considering the situation, they got really, really lucky here. Or at least NXT did. I'm not really sure who you can say got lucky, but maybe the fans did. I'm not sure. I feel like if the talent got stranded in Saudi Arabia when they did, NXT, would they have filled out the episode with NXT talent the way they did? Probably not. They may have had one or two talents from NXT on the show, like a Adam Cole or a Shayna Baszler. The thing was, they announced for Survivor Series, Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT on Thursday. So it's not like it was a last-minute decision like, we need to fill out the 2 hours of SmackDown with NXT talent. So let's announce that for Survivor Series and then feature them on Friday. I don't think that was ever the case. Because they announced a lot for SmackDown on Friday that had nothing to do with NXT originally. They had that 6-woman tag team match, which they ended up changing to Bayley and Nikki Cross for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And then Fire and Desire was supposed to go up against Carmella and Dana Brooke, who were supposed to be in that 6-woman tag team match before that got changed. They were advertising Bray Wyatt on Miz Tv. Some other mega matchup I can't think of right. Oh yeah, when I say mega, I mean Roman Reigns versus King Corbin. Thank God we were spared of that shit. Well, I don't know, Roman Reigns versus King Corbin, or let's see, Daniel Bryan versus Adam Cole for the NXT Championship. Let me think about that for a second. These travel issues really benefited not only the fans, but the show itself. This was the best SmackDown, if not all year, in many, many, many months. Definitely of the Fox era. The rating was up not only from last week, which was a given, because they were on FS1 a week ago, but also from 2 weeks ago. The show 2 weeks ago brought in 2.4 million viewers. This show, 2.5 million viewers. And ratings increases in WWE are very hard to come by nowadays. The shows may get better, they may get worse, but the ratings rarely ever increase. If anything, they plummet at a rapid pace. At a rapid rate, do these ratings decrease almost every single week, especially for NXT and AEW Dynamite. They were at over 1 million viewers respectively when they first started on Wednesdays. I mean, granted, the World Series was this week, but still, NXT, 500,000 viewers. Over half of its audience gone. AEW Dynamite, 700,000 viewers. Also, half of its audience gone from what they did a month ago on October 2nd, which pulled in 1.4 million viewers. This week, 700,000. That's terrible. But again, World Series, we'll see how that affected things, how much it really affected things. The ratings were going down anyway, even before the World Series started. So we'll see how things may or may not go back to normal starting next week. But I'd be shocked if the NXT rating did not go up next week. I would be fucking shocked. Coming off of this angle, and what did they have promised going into Survivor Series with the brand warfare, not only between Raw and SmackDown, but also NXT, I would be shocked if the rating was not up significantly for next Wednesday. So we'll see. But I thought this SmackDown was great. I thought this was a really, really good show. And again, they really lucked out. Because if they just had an NXT showcase show, yeah, it would have been fun. But it would have had nothing to do with the current storylines. It would have been completely random. It would have been a fun show, but it would have made no sense. This show made sense. Not only was it fun to see the faces that we did, including Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, Matt Riddle, Shayna Baszler, Keith Lee, the list goes on and on. We saw a lot of people on the show from NXT. Not only that, we also got a lot of successful hype, I would say, for Survivor Series in a few weeks, a show that I did not give two shits about a fucking couple days ago. Raw versus SmackDown, who gives a shit? We've seen it now for 3 or 4 years since the brand split was brought back in 2016? They did it then. They did it the following year. They did it last year. And every year, it means less and less and less. The matches may be good. Last year, we had 2 great matches between Brock Lesnar and Daniel Bryan, and then Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. 2 great matches. But the brand supremacy shit means absolutely nothing. Zero. Nada. They're terrible. It doesn't matter. It doesn't account for anything. Neither brand really earns anything. They don't benefit from anything. It doesn't fucking matter. Granted, we are getting it again this year, but the NXT involvement makes me think that hopefully, all right, something may not be on the line, but it could spice things up a little bit. NXT could very well emerge from that event having not won a single match, the same way that SmackDown did not win a single match last year at Survivor Series. I guess we'll see, and I'll talk more about that as Survivor Series draws closer and what the matches will look like. So, granted, for example, we may get Brock versus Bray versus Adam Cole if they intend to put all 3 champions against each other. I really have no desire to see that just because Adam Cole's taking the pinfall loss. You're pitting the unstoppable Brock Lesnar against the seemingly immortal Bray Wyatt. Not Hulk Hogan immortal, but immortal in the sense where he can take fucking 8 finishers and still kick out, against good old Adam Cole. Now, I know Adam Cole just beat Daniel Bryan clean on SmackDown last night. There's no way he's winning that match. If anything, he's taking the win, or he's taking the loss in that match. He's taking the big old L in that triple threat if it does happen, which I hope doesn't. I'd rather see Adam Cole in a multi-man tag team match, the Elimination Survivor Series tag team match, captain his own team, a lot like he will at War Games, apparently, against the team of Ciampa and Keith and Matt Riddle and probably Velveteen Dream or Dominik Dijakovic, whatever. I guess we'll soon say. But, again, we'll talk more about Survivor Series as it draws closer. But it's not every week I do these SmackDown reviews. I wanted to make it a point to do one this week because the show was so good. How could I not talk about SmackDown? And by the time Wrestle Rant Radio rolls around next Thursday, by that point it would have been old news. So I had to make a point to record an audio review for SmackDown right here today on Saturday, November 2nd, 2019. You can check out my full written review of the show, which went up a little later than I was hoping, just right before I started recording this afternoon. I was going to do it last night, but I still had to finish my review from Crown Jewel from Thursday because they went out on Thursday night. So that was a bit, backlogged as well, so I apologize for that. But today we are talking SmackDown from Friday, and I do have to mention this. Atlas Air, I believe, is the name of the airline that took the talent home on Friday. They apologized publicly to WWE for all the inconveniences, and we still don't know what the hell happened in Saudi Arabia. As far as I know, everyone now is home. I saw Bobby Roode tweet about it, and a number of others, Buddy Murphy, on early Friday. There may have been 2 separate planes that took all the talent home. So I think they all got home at different times. Because I saw someone tweet, like a Bobby Roode or someone along those lines, say, "Oh, finally home, thank God." And then someone left a comment under that tweet, I think Ivar of the Viking Raiders, saying, "Oh, you're lucky. I'm not yet," or something along those lines. So I feel like they took 2 separate planes. I know Hogan and Flair got back to Tampa a lot earlier than everyone else, including Vince. Vince, I think, was one of the people that flew out ahead of everyone else. Brock, too. I think he flew out, or no, he didn't fly out on his private jet to begin with. I think people thought he would, but he didn't. He flew with the rest of the talent on Monday, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, Atlas Air apologized to WWE publicly for all the inconveniences and the issues, and honestly, we the fans should be thanking Atlas Air. WWE should be thanking Atlas Air for all the issues that they gave the talent. Now, I feel for the talent. I feel bad for them. It sucks that they had to be, the victims in this situation. But we, the fans, and the show itself really benefited from the talent getting stranded in Saudi Arabia, because that show, again, was the best show I've seen in some time. So to get to the actual review here, we kicked off the evening with Brock Lesnar, still the WWE Champion, coming off his 2-minute win over Cain Velasquez. Yes, he beat his former UFC foe in 2 minutes on Thursday in Saudi Arabia. The match, again, I can't even say it was bad. It was an MMA-style shoot fight. Cool, but that does nothing to make me want to care about Cain Velasquez. Why should I give a shit about this guy, injured knee or not, after he just lost to Brock Lesnar in 2 minutes of Crown Jewel? People have lasted longer than Cain Velasquez. People like fucking Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, who aren't even half the size of Cain Velasquez. So I'm not even really sure why we should care about that guy going forward, but putting that aside, speaking of which, actually, they did replay the entire match on this show. So it was pretty apparent that they wanted to drag this out. And reportedly, according to one source, the NXT talent did not even arrive at the arena until literally right during the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Bayley and Nikki Cross, which is why they put that on so early, as they should have. Beyond that, there was nothing else advertised for this show. So they put that on right after Lesnar. And Paul Heyman probably spoke as slowly as he ever has on WWE TV because he wanted to kill as much time as possible. It was very obvious that WWE with this show was trying to kill as much time as possible. The main event got a ton of time. Cole and Daniel Bryan made their entrances around 9:30. So the match went about over 20 minutes, easily over 20 minutes, including commercials, I think. And they had Stephanie talk about the women's evolution, okay. They had Triple H and Shawn come out to the ring, make their entrances. We saw, who else came out? Oh, Triple H at the end of the show did that rally speech with the NXT talent. And the show, for those wondering, always ends at 9:57. For anyone wondering, they went off the air early, what's going on with that? That's been the case since they went to Fox. I guess because it must be some sort of a rule, because the news goes on at 10, that the program that's preceding the news cannot go until 10. It has to end a few minutes early for them to either get ready or whatever. It has to go on at 10, so that's why Eastern time. So that's why SmackDown always ends early for those curious. It's not because Cole and Daniel Bryan ran short and they had to fill time, and that's the purpose of Triple H's promo. No, I'm sure that was always planned. That's why Triple H was out there. That's just the thing for SmackDown now. That not only can they not go overtime, they can't even reach 10 o'clock. The show always has to end early. And hey, I'm not complaining. Less wrestling at this point, the better, because Raw's 3 hours, so I'm not going to sit here and complain about, SmackDown ending early, but nonetheless, because that's very rare in WWE nowadays, aside from the pay-per-views themselves. So anyway, they really were dragging this thing out with Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. They addressed the Cain Velasquez win. I was honestly really wondering what the point of this was, because I don't think Brock was even supposed to be on the show until they found out that the other talent wouldn't make it, so they flew Brock out. He probably flew back to New York City, to JFK Airport, unless he went home and they flew him out to New York. I'm not really sure what happened. He probably flew to New York initially, and that's where he stayed until the show was over. But he came out, or, he didn't say anything, but Paul Heyman did, again, talking about Cain before addressing the attack from Rey Mysterio, which they also replayed in its entirety from Thursday. And Brock proceeded to quit SmackDown, not WWE, but SmackDown, according to Paul Heyman, and will indeed be appearing on Raw this Monday to confront and seek vengeance on Rey Mysterio. So yes, it makes the draft look like shit, because Brock was like one of the top draft picks for SmackDown, and then he goes ahead and quits and goes to Raw. So how do you think in storyline Fox feels about that one? So if I didn't want to be on Raw and I wanted to go to SmackDown or vice versa, I could just quit and then the other brand could just scoop me up. Is that how it works in WWE? That makes no sense. But at least they're trying to explain why Brock will be on Raw this week and he just doesn't randomly show up, which would hurt the brand split even more. Because they've said multiple times now, including in this promo, that superstars will be exclusive to one brand or the other. That doesn't explain why Rey Mysterio got to appear on SmackDown last week, despite the fact he's a Raw superstar, but whatever. Rey really should be on SmackDown, and Brock should stay on SmackDown, but they may be moving Brock back to Raw because of the whole WWE title, Universal title situation. I have no idea what's going on there. But yeah, Brock will be on Raw this week, which was a nice hook for Raw. I'm not sure how the Fox executive feel. I'm not exactly sure how the Fox executives feel about that, the promotion for USA Network on Raw this week. But I thought it was well done. This was okay. Went a little longer than it needed to, but this did... got the job done in promoting Raw for Monday and furthering the feud in a way between Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio. So it seems like full steam ahead for Rey Mysterio and Brock Lesnar, I would assume, at Survivor Series. Now, that's really what I want to see. I don't want to see, champions versus champions and all this other shit. Yeah, maybe with the women, Shayna, Becky, and Bayley. That makes sense. Adam Cole, The Fiend, and Brock Lesnar? No thanks. That doesn't really make much sense. But they could do Brock and Rey as a brand supremacy storyline. I mean, I guess Brock isn't really on SmackDown technically anymore, so I'm not really sure how that one would work. But Brock and Rey would make the most sense after what's been teased and what's been built up over the past month and a half. So we will get the continuation of that program on Monday's Raw. We then had for the SmackDown Women's Championship, Bayley beating Nikki Cross to retain the title. Good match. I mean, we've seen the match so many times in 2019 on Raw and on SmackDown that this didn't really feel like anything new. It was a good match, though. Credit to the two women. The near falls down the stretch. I never really felt like Nikki Cross was on the verge of becoming champion, that the title was ever really truly in jeopardy. But it was a quality contest. Nikki Cross looked good in defeat. Bayley ended up winning with Sasha Banks in her corner here. And that was it. Bayley's still the SmackDown Women's Champion now. I should mention this. Alexa Bliss did note on Twitter many weeks ago, because I was curious, like, where has Alexa Bliss been? Why hasn't she been, accompanying Nikki Cross to ringside for her matches? And someone pointed out on her Twitter weeks ago that she needed a break, or that she asked for a break, or whatever. I thought that would mean maybe a break from social media, but she's still tweeting, so clearly that wasn't it. Maybe she just needed a break from being on the road. I don't know. I don't know if she's hurt. We haven't seen her in action since she and Nikki lost. I don't think we've seen her in action since she lost the WWE Women's Tag Team titles at Hell in a Cell a month ago. And it's not like her and Nikki Cross are done, because they went back after the Kabuki Warriors on the next night's Raw. They were drafted together to SmackDown like a week later in that trade on WWE Backstage, no matter how pointless that shit was. That was really, really pointless. But so it's not like they split up. She's just not on the show right now. And it's also worth noting, I'll be at Ringside Fest tomorrow and in New York City. Alexa Bliss was supposed to be there with Nikki Cross, along with Seth Rollins. That's why I'm going. I'm going for Seth Rollins. I want to meet Seth Rollins, have him sign my replica Intercontinental Championship belt. That's why I'm going. But it was actually supposed to be Jeff Hardy. And then Jeff Hardy got pulled because of all the issues he's been having recently. Alexa Bliss, literally as of an hour ago, was pulled from the event. A day beforehand, which sucks. But that's what happened. So she's not going to be there. And Nikki Cross, no replacement either, because Nikki Cross was supposed to be there too. And they're just saying that, hey, Alexa Bliss won't be there, but you can still meet Nikki Cross. Like, the talent is in New York City. And they probably want to go the fuck home, but it would be nice if they added someone else in addition to Nikki Cross, because they were advertising Alexa Bliss, who's a far bigger star. No offense to Nikki. Alexa Bliss is a far bigger star than Nikki Cross. So I'm not sure what's going on, why she wasn't at the show. She hasn't been on SmackDown yet since being moved to the Blue brand a few weeks ago. And apparently the issue, according to Alexa Bliss's Twitter, was that she had some sort of personal matter. She never really explained what it was, nor is it really our business. But I'm not sure if it's a medical issue. I mean, they're in New York City, and it's only a signing, so it's not like she's wrestling, like she was advertised to wrestle and they had to pull her. I don't know what's going on with Nikki Cross. It seems to be some sort of a personal issue, which is why she wasn't on SmackDown and won't be there on Sunday at Ringside Fest. Just thought I would throw that out there. But anyway, after Bayley won the match, out comes the NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler. Yeah, Shayna Baszler shows up without her cronies. Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir were nowhere to be seen. Although it would have been cool because there were 3 women at ringside for this. Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Nikki Cross. So it would have been cool if we had all 3 women here attacking Nikki Cross, Sasha, and Bayley respectively. But it actually came across better that it was just Shayna, because Shayna knocked out, maybe not Nikki, but she definitely went after Sasha when she first jumped the barricade, and then Bayley in the ring. laying out Bayley, standing tall as the NXT Women's Champion. I thought this was great. This was the first of many NXT appearances on this show. And again, it got me thinking about a potential triple threat between Baszler, Becky, and Bayley at Survivor Series. And I like that idea a lot. I mean, Becky and Bayley alone would be good because Becky's still very popular. We really have not seen a lot of Becky versus Bayley. I know they had one match on SmackDown many months ago, maybe back in May. They may have had one match since Bayley went heel. I don't think so, though. But other than that, they have really not done anything with those two. So that alone, one-on-one, would be a fresh match at Survivor Series. But they're throwing in Shayna, likely, and I think that's the route to take, because that could be a really, really good match, and I would give Shayna the win, personally. We then had Sami Zayn talking backstage without Shinsuke Nakamura, because obviously he was over in Saudi Arabia and was held up by all the travel issues. So Sami Zayn flying solo for the first time in a while, talking about the NXT talent and how he's not a fan of it, despite the fact he was in NXT for, 3 years? He was the heart and soul of NXT for so long, and now all of a sudden he wants nothing to do with NXT. I mean, I know he's a heel, but I just thought that was funny. It would have been cool if he came face-to-face with Jonny Gargano, who's the current, kind of what Sami Zayn used to be to NXT many years ago. I thought that would have been cool. No such luck, unfortunately. It did make sense, though. I will give them that. Finn Balor was not on the show, nor would it really have made sense. He just moved to NXT, so it's not like, I bleed black and yellow now. He does, but, he just moved, so it really would not have been that big of a deal to see him invading SmackDown, where he once called home before he moved back to NXT. But anyway, Jonny Gargano is still selling the injuries from when he was attacked by Finn a week and a half ago. Velveteen Dream, too. He might actually be legit. Obviously, Jonny Gargano isn't. He just wasn't on the show because it wouldn't have made any sense. Because, I know Ciampa and Cole were standing with Triple H at the end of the show. They didn't hug or anything like that. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like Keith Lee and Matt Riddle were, hugging it out with Roderick Strong and Adam Cole. They are in a feud right now, but Goldie was surely in the sights of Ciampa at the end of the show, which I thought was a very nice touch. Noticeable, subtle, but very well done. But anyway, so the whole, what was I saying, with Shayna and Becky and Bayley, that match would be good. What was I even saying? I don't even really remember. Oh, with Sami Zayn and Johnny. Yeah, Johnny not being on the show was not a shock. It would have been cool, but to sell the injuries, you can't blow off the injury for 1 week and pretend like it didn't happen. Remember years ago when Triple H was ambushed by Roman Reigns at the end of the TLC pay-per-view in 2015? I remember because I was there. And he got the shit kicked out of him after at the end of that pay-per-view. Got the shit kicked out of him by Roman Reigns. Triple H wasn't on Raw the next night. We didn't see him again on WWE TV till the Royal Rumble, except for TakeOver in London literally 3 days after the fucking show, because he kicked off the show. I'm not sure if he's kicked off a TakeOver since, but it's like, dude, sell the fucking injuries. I know NXT's different from the main roster, but that still makes no sense. I thought that was silly, and thankfully we did not get that here. Instead, it was Matt Riddle and Keith Lee interrupting Sami Zayn. I don't think they said anything. They just kind of made it a note to ask him, where his NXT shirt was, if he was bashing NXT for so long, and he claimed to be such a big NXT fan still 3 years after being called up to the main roster. So he runs off. Riddle and Lee chase him off to the ring, where they hit their finishers on him, and that was it. So it was a pretty simple segment, clearly just built to kill time. It wasn't, oh my God, the greatest thing ever. It was cool to see Keith Lee and Matt Riddle in front of a main roster audience. I thought that was really well done. The actual segment wasn't oh my God, this is incredible. It was a segment. But it was cool. Keith Lee getting TV time was fucking awesome, because the guy's not the face of NXT. He hasn't really picked up that many important wins in NXT in the year that he's been there. So to see him on SmackDown of all people, I thought was really cool. So they got their moment to shine. And it got me thinking after seeing Matt Riddle's tweet from later on in the night, early this morning. He said something along the lines of, it would have been cool to encounter Brock Lesnar on this show. And it got me thinking, not that they would do this because they have no intentions of doing the match, but what if they had Matt Riddle, while he was backstage, after this, before this, whatever, run in to Brock Lesnar? And Brock Lesnar is not the type of person to just, brush up against someone backstage and then keep walking. He would have beat the shit out of Matt Riddle, excuse me. He would have beaten the shit out of him. So it's probably for the best that we didn't get that, because it would have buried Matt Riddle before he ever really had a chance to get over. But it would have been cool. Again, they probably have zero plans to do the match anytime soon, if not ever. But for us long-term fans, us longtime fans of Riddle and Lesnar, knowing how badly Riddle really wants to retire Brock Lesnar, it would have been cool. But again, WWE doesn't do that type of stuff unless there's a purpose. So again, I get it. That just got me thinking after the fact. We then had Miz TV, where we were told that The Miz would be interviewing himself, which was a red alert, a sign that someone would be interrupting. Sure enough, former NXT champion Tommaso Ciampa came out, and he is a babyface, for those wondering, in NXT, though he did come across like a heel here, challenging The Miz to an impromptu match. We go to break, come back, get Ciampa and Miz. Good match. Nothing too great, but it was good. They didn't get a ton of time, but I thought they made the most of the minutes they had. They maximized their minutes, so to speak. And Ciampa won, as he should have. It would have made absolutely no sense for this guy to lose ahead of his big likely War Games match at TakeOver in a few weeks. Former NXT champion. And what the fuck is The Miz doing on NXT right now? Or on SmackDown right now, rather. Nothing. Could you imagine The Miz in NXT? I love The Miz, but the guy would stick out like a sore fucking thumb. I think he was there once many years ago. He faced, I want to say, CJ Parker, randomly enough, like in 2013. The current Juice Robinson. Yeah, that match happened on NXT years ago. As strange as that sounds. But anyway, The Miz has done nothing for months. Ever since that feud with Shane went nowhere back in WrestleMania season, back in May, and he lost to him like 3 SmackDowns in a row, the guy's been fucking floundering beyond belief. So I'm glad that Ciampa went over here, as he should have. And I don't think, I was thinking while watching this match, I don't think Ciampa has lost a match since he lost to Jonny Gargano in their first of 3 matches at TakeOver New Orleans a year and a half ago. Because he lost that match to Johnny, and he had not been in action prior to that because of injuries since like the spring of 2017. And even then, it was pretty rare to see him in singles action. So for all the talk about Johnny, being Mr. Wrestling, being Mr. NXT, he's on NXT all the time, Ciampa really doesn't wrestle on NXT TV all that often. He lost that match to Johnny, and then after that, they started building him back up. He won a few matches on TV against Cassius Ohno and Otis Dojovic. I remember him beating on an episode of NXT TV about a year and a half ago, too. So he didn't really wrestle all that often on TV. So I don't think he's lost a match since then, actually. I mean, I did look it up. He lost a tag team match earlier this year when he got injured. Not in this match, but when he was written off. It was the semifinals of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. He and Johnny lost to Aleister Black and Ricochet, and I'm not sure who got pinned. Probably Johnny, I would imagine. Either way, it was a tag team match. Ciampa, I don't think, has lost the singles match since April of 2018. So to have him lose here to The Miz of all people, who is a big star, he's been around for 15 years. He recently celebrated 15 years in WWE, including his time in Tough Enough, of course. But that's really impressive. He should not have won here. Ciampa needed this win, and I'm glad he did win. It was a good match. We then were supposed to get Fire and Desire, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, against the random duo of Carmella and Dana Brooke, which wasn't all that random, but again, it was supposed to be Bayley, Carmella, and Brooke versus Bayley and Fire and Desire. So they split the 2 matches up, but before the bout could come to fruition, we saw Bianca Belair from NXT, the EST of NXT, beating up on Carmella and Dana Brooke backstage, leading to their replacements, Rhea Ripley and Tegan Nox. Yeah, Rhea Ripley on SmackDown is absolutely something I can get behind. And I'll tell you right now, of all the people that appeared on this show, that appeared on this SmackDown from NXT, Rhea Ripley is one to watch. She is awesome. And she's only like 23 years old. I think she might be younger than me. I'm 24. She might be 23. If she's not 23, she must have just turned 24. I know she's around my age, and that's really impressive for someone who's only been wrestling for not that long. She was in the Mae Young Classic, the first one and second one. Did really well in both. Ended up becoming the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion earlier this year, or late last year, about a year ago. She was in the Women's Royal Rumble match in January. She's been on NXT recently. She's really been making the rounds between NXT UK. Rhea Ripley alone this week was on NXT on Wednesday, NXT UK on Thursday, which of course, was filmed a few weeks ago, but still. And then on SmackDown on Friday. That's amazing. That's really impressive. So, not many people can say they did that this week. Tyler Bate, maybe. He was on NXT and NXT UK, but he was not on SmackDown on Friday. So Rhea Ripley is one to watch. She is a terrific talent. They won this match within a matter of a minute and a half. Now, I will say this. It was weird to see Ripley and Tegan Nox teaming up and acting so buddy-buddy-ish with each other. Just because, lest we forget, a year ago. Now, again, I know Ripley and Tegan are kind of on the same side on Wednesday. Tegan Nox will be a part of Team Ripley at War Games in a few weeks. So, again, I get it. But they weren't like hugging and kissing and, all this other shit. On Wednesday, they were just kind of on the same side, and, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So anyway, a year ago, when Tegan Nox got hurt in the Mae Young Classic, it was in a match with Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley, while she wasn't the exact reason behind the injury, she ended up capitalizing off of it. And that was really when Rhea Ripley took off, was when she started mocking Tegan's injury on Twitter and in her matches and shit like that. It was really hilariously well done. It was great heel heat. And that was how she got over as big of a heel as she did in NXT and NXT UK, was because of that injury to Tegan Nox. And it was never followed up on after that. I mean, Tegan Nox was out for a year, but she came back a few months ago. And now they're kind of on the same side and even teaming on SmackDown. So again, it's a small detail, a little weird. They probably should have shown more attention than they did. But they want to have Tegan and Ripley come across as baby faces, so I get it, whatever. But the match was exactly what it was supposed to be, and that was a total squash. And then we get to our dream match, main event of the evening, for the NXT Championship. Adam Cole defending against NXT's own Daniel Bryan. Now, maybe not currently, but Daniel Bryan, again, lest we forget, was a part of the original NXT a decade ago. In fact, he competed in the first ever main event on NXT TV against, of all people, the inaugural AEW World Champion, who was also in the first ever episode of SmackDown and AEW Dynamite recently, Chris Jericho, which is pretty cool. Daniel Bryan, I mean, some people were saying, what if Bryan wins and he goes to NXT? Like, that wasn't going to happen. That would have been insanely stupid. And I love Daniel Bryan. That would have made no sense. I should point this out, though. The commentators, I would have to go back and listen to their exact wording of what they said here. Not that it's a big deal. It's purely nitpicking. I will point that out ahead of time. This is just me being a fucking, not a know-it-all, but like a little nitpicker. But anyway, I think it was Tom Phillips who had said, this marks the first time the NXT Championship has ever been defended on SmackDown. If he said SmackDown on Fox, then I get it. If he said SmackDown in general, SmackDown period, that is inaccurate. Because I remembered, I'm like, I don't think that's accurate. And only I would remember something like this. But I thought there was a match between Kevin Owens and Zack Ryder many, many years ago, like in 2015, when Kevin Owens was still the NXT champion, that he defended the title, oddly enough, against Zack Ryder on SmackDown. And I remember that because Kevin Owens at that point, again, still the NXT champion, but he wanted to mock John Cena, who was the United States champion at that point, doing the U.S. Open challenges. Kevin Owens held his very own NXT Open challenge, which was accepted by Zack Ryder. And I think he did one on Raw, too, maybe against like Heath Slater or something like that. I would have to go back and watch it. I forgot who. It was like a loser, though. But yeah, Zack Ryder vied once for the NXT Championship on SmackDown 4 years ago. So, yes, the NXT Championship has before been defended on SmackDown. Maybe not in like a memorable match. And it wasn't a dark match either. I had someone tweet me and say, wasn't this a dark match? It's not. It's on the WWE YouTube channel. It did happen. It's on the network. Again, purely nitpicking. But if you told me 2 days ago that the main event of SmackDown, instead of Roman Reigns versus King Corbin, would be for the NXT Championship, no less, Adam Cole versus Daniel Bryan, I would have called you crazy. This was a great match. This was awesome. And as someone noted on Twitter, I think maybe Sean Ross Sapp, that when Daniel Bryan was signed by WWE almost a decade ago, Adam Cole was 20 years old. That's unbelievable. Adam Cole was probably just barely getting started in wrestling. For some reason, I want to say that he started wrestling in 2008, but definitely not like Ring of Honor. Like, I think he debuted in Ring of Honor maybe in 2011. I'd have to go back and check, but either way, this was the first ever Adam Cole, Daniel Bryan match. And it was one of those matches I thought we would never get. And if we would, it wouldn't be for a long time, because Adam Cole's been in NXT now for the past 2 years. But we got it here. It was a great match. They gave the guys time. They let them go out there and do their thing. And surprise, surprise, they had a great match. What a concept. Give two great wrestlers time to do what they're capable of and go out there and rip it up. And they have a great match. Again, what a concept. I'm shocked. But all kidding aside, this was a really good main event. In the end, Daniel Bryan had the yes lock in, and I was convinced, and I'm sure I'm far from the only one here, that either Roddy would interfere. Now, the rest of Undisputed Era was not there. Kyle O'Reilly was nowhere to be seen. Bobby Fish was nowhere to be seen. They only flew in a select, not even really a few. It was like probably 10 plus NXT talents. I'll count in a second because I remember seeing a visual. I mean, you'll probably see it in the thumbnail for this video. But Fish and O'Reilly weren't there. They didn't need to be there. Roddy was there. He accompanied accompanied Adam Cole to ringside before walking to the back before the match started. He was there. I thought he would interfere, or the rest of the, NXT roster or some shit, to prevent Adam Cole from losing the NXT Championship, and then we would end the show on this big brawl, as we always see every fucking year before Survivor Series. No, we did not see that. Instead, Adam Cole got out of the S-Lock, ended up hitting the Panama City Sunrise, which the first time ever on WWE TV, that alone was cool. And he's made it more of a regular thing recently in NXT. He's hit it a lot on the takeovers. He hit maybe Matt Riddle with 2 of them, I want to say, in their match a few weeks ago on NXT TV. About a month ago today, he beat Matt Riddle with 2 of them on TV. So it's not really as rare as it used to be, but he hit that here on TV. In addition to the last shot, his finish, and he beat Daniel Bryan clean in the middle of the ring. Now, I thought there was a chance that would happen. Again, it's not Bryan's call. He's not saying, oh, let me lose, let me lose, let me lose. It's also a matter of what Triple H wanted, who helped run the show. And moreover than anyone else, moreover than Bryan, than Triple H, is Vince McMahon. If Vince McMahon did not want Daniel Bryan to lose on his now supposedly flagship show, he wouldn't have had him lose. Obviously, he wouldn't have had Bryan win if it was a title match, but he probably would have had a DQ finish, a countout, a no contest. But no, everyone agreed that Bryan would lose clean here, and he did. Bryan, as I saw someone say on Twitter, is the most selfless man in wrestling. And that goes for Chris Jericho, too. Chris Jericho, of all people, for God fucking sake, lost to Fandango at WrestleMania 6 years ago. How can the guy not be selfless? I know he's the current world champion, but you know what? I know this is a Daniel Bryan explanation, not a tirade, but like I'm on the subject of Daniel Bryan. On a quick, side rant here, Chris Jericho is also one of the most selfless men in wrestling. Yet he's been one of the most successful too. Multi-time world champion, IC champion, US champion, tag team champion, all this other shit. But think of all the people that he's put over the years. I remember he lost in an episode of NXT, speaking of NXT, about a decade ago, April of 2010, I want to say, because I was on spring break at that point in high school. He lost to Heath fucking Slater on an episode of NXT. This was right after he lost the World Championship, too, did Chris Jericho. It was literally 2 weeks later, after he lost the World Heavyweight Championship. He got pinned clean with a roll-up by Heath Slater. No more than 6 months before that, he was beat by JTG, who isn't even with the company anymore, on an episode of SmackDown, 10 years ago. Got beat by Zack Ryder. He let Zack Ryder beat him on an episode of Raw many, many years ago, 2016 maybe. He's been beaten by Fandango. Jericho deserves it for all the shit that this guy's been put up with. Lost to Ryback one time. He's lost everybody under the sun. I cannot think of a single person, aside from probably Hangman Page recently, that Jericho has faced and not lost to. Everybody. Everybody has lost, or rather beaten Chris Jericho. So he deserves that AEW World Championship run, in addition to the fact he's doing great work. Daniel Bryan also has been one of the most, if not the most selfless man in WWE this year. Between losing here to Adam Cole, where he should have won anyway. Adam Cole should have won, and he did. It made the most sense. Bryan lost nothing in defeat. But they did the right thing by having Adam Cole win clean, which was awesome. But Daniel Bryan lost clean here. Remember, he got pinned by Ali many months ago. I don't know if it was in late 2018. I want to say it might have been late 2018. I don't know if it was in 2019, but he definitely lost to Ali. Ali pinned him in a tag team match either late last year or earlier this year. Obviously lost to Kofi Kingston multiple times at WrestleMania, most notably, of course, but lost the WWE Championship to Kofi. Got pinned by Buddy Murphy, a guy who could not even make television 2 years ago. Lost to Buddy fucking Murphy, who was awesome, and he deserved the win, which they did nothing with, by the way. Buddy Murphy beat Daniel Bryan, was then nowhere to be seen on WWE TV after that. He lost to Ali maybe the following week, and that was it. And then he recently resurfaced on Raw. But yeah, Bryan has been the most selfless man in wrestling this year. Lost to Eric Rowan. Let's not forget about that. Lost to Eric Rowan, too, on an episode of SmackDown a few weeks ago, which is, something to be said for that, because Eric Rowan, he's not all that good. Remember this, again, Daniel Bryan has done a lot more losing this year than winning. I'm pretty sure he got pinned by Otis. He lost to Heavy Machinery on SmackDown in like a triple threat right before the July Extreme Rules pay-per-view. He got beat by Otis on SmackDown, I want to say. That was a big win. Or maybe Xavier pinned him, I forget. But, that was big too. So Daniel Bryan has really done his fair share of getting other people over this year. It's really more a matter of how WWE follows up on it. But, for Adam Cole, doesn't really matter because he's in NXT, not the main roster. But this was great, though. I thought this was a really, really good match. Adam Cole winning clean as he should have, followed by a great promo from Triple H, rallying the troops. So we saw everyone that appeared on the show. So they had probably between 10 and 15 talents, including the 205 Live NXT guys. They're technically NXT guys, but they're also a part of 205 Live. That being Lio Rush was out there making his first WWE TV appearance probably since the night after WrestleMania, when Bobby Lashley attacked Dean Ambrose, and then he wasn't seen after that, and he got taken off the road entirely. Lio Rush was there, I think with the Cruiserweight Championship, and he was on 205 Live after this, so it's not like they flew him out for this. They flew him out for 205 Live, where he faced Raul Mendoza in a pretty good match. They showed, I think maybe Raul Mendoza was here too, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely Isaiah Swerve Scott was out there. Dakota Kai made an appearance. Tegan Knox, Rhea Ripley, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, Roderick Strong, Adam Cole. Shayna Baszler was out there. Again, you can see it in the thumbnail for this video. I'm kind of going off my memory here, but a decent amount of NXT talent were out there. Triple H rallying up the troops, saying, "Hey, Raw, SmackDown, if you want a war, you got one. We'll see your asses at Survivor Series." So again, I thought this was great. And not only was it a very entertaining show, it served the purpose. It got me excited for Survivor Series, which is something I have not said in many, many years. Maybe I might have been excited for the 2016 show, because that was the first time they did the Raw and SmackDown stuff. Other than that, the last couple of shows have not been great. They've been, good, but not great. And this show could be the exception if booked properly. That's the key there. That's the real asterisk, if booked properly. And we don't even know any of the matches yet for Survivor Series. And I'm already excited for it, just knowing NXT will be involved in some form or fashion. This was a really good show. I'm not really sure how you could say this was anything but a good show. Unless you have a vendetta against NXT for whatever reason, then if so, I'm not really sure what's wrong with you. You don't have to like NXT to agree that this was a good show. It was better than anything else they put out, including the Fox debut show a few weeks ago, about a month ago. This was better than that. Because at least this had shit where it served purpose and gave me a reason to watch next week. And that had a hot ending too, with Cain Velasquez debuting, and that was cool. But this really is looking forward to the future. And that is why, moreover than anything else, why I thought this show was a massive success. So hopefully they can maintain the momentum next week. Hopefully SmackDown sees a ratings boost even more than it received this week. Hopefully NXT, more importantly, receives a ratings boost on Wednesday. Their ratings have been in the shitter, rapidly declining, not over the span of 6 months, over the span of a month since they arrived on USA. That's not good. And it's not like AEW is winning the ratings war. I mean, they are, but it's not like they're getting the NXT ratings. They're getting their viewers. They're losing viewers too. These people are just not watching wrestling, which sucks because both shows are great, but apparently doesn't translate to that audience. But anyway, this was a great show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Got me pumped up for Survivor Series. got me excited for NXT next week. Even Raw, the Brock and Ray stuff was also hyped up. Let's not forget about that at the beginning of this show. So they also managed to promote Raw. I don't know if Triple H went out of his way to sabotage the Saudi Arabia flight. I'm not sure what went down. In all seriousness, though, they made the best of a bad situation. It is sad that it takes WWE's talent to get stranded, as I said at the start of the show, for them to put on a very good show, for them to have their backs up against the wall, for them to really, put together a strong show. It's sad that has to be the case, but, when push comes to shove, they deliver, because we know they have it in them to run a good show. And it's not, because Vince wasn't there, and that's why it was a good show. It was a Triple H show. No, Vince was there. This was a Vince show. For every SmackDown that's bad, there is also a few SmackDowns that are good. Same goes for Raw. They're all Vince shows. Every single one of them. So you can't pick and choose and say, this one was bad because Vince ran it. No, they're all Vince approved. Especially this one, because he was there. He was there. So this was a very good show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. And hopefully you guys enjoyed my review of SmackDown right here on the YouTube channel. So my review of Total Divas from this past week was supposed to go up yesterday. Instead, I put up my Wrestle Rant Radio excerpts. So check those out. And I was going to put up the Total Divas review today, but then I recorded this, so I didn't do that either. But it should be up tomorrow. I am leaving first thing in the morning for Ringside Fest with Alexis from New York City. So, that being said, that should be up tomorrow. And then Monday, I should have my review up of WWE The Day Of. It finally aired on the network after Crown Jewel on Thursday, focusing on SmackDown's 20-year anniversary show that I just got done talking about from a few weeks ago, about a month ago. That'll be up on Monday. My review will be up of that on Monday. So check that out. And thank you guys for checking out all the content here on the channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, drop a comment, and share the video. All the support is greatly appreciated. And that's going to do it for me, folks. Find me on the socials as well in the description box down below. Until next time, happy wrestling. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.